Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Jake. Welcome to Compass Online. You know, we're officially in October right now, which means only one thing in my book. It's officially pumpkin spice season. You might be thinking, Jake, you're a little late to the game on this. But to me, Halloween just lends to pumpkin-flavored everything. But I'm not here to love pumpkin spice flavor, and I'm also not here to hate on it. If you want a latte with pumpkin spice, go for it. All I would really like to say is, if you love pumpkin spice, let's use it as a reason to connect. If you haven't had a cup of digital coffee with me yet, or even if you have and you just want to catch back up, I'd love to have you go to thecompass.net/digital coffee. Fill out a quick little form, let me know the best way to contact you, and really just what you want to talk about. Whether it's pumpkin spice flavor, Justin Fields, the grand University of Michigan football team, whatever the case is, man, let's have a conversation. I want to know more about you and how you want to better connect with us here at the Compass Church. And another thing that I'd love to encourage you to do while we have a few moments is to fill out your online connection card. Just let us know that you're here really quick before the worship service gets started, and let us know how we can pray for you. I love taking the time each and every week to pray for your prayer requests, because they matter, because you matter, and you matter because of Jesus. So with that, let's get ready to sing. Let's praise the great name of our God together.
When we call Friends, we are at a historic spot. We are down at Grant Park on Columbus Drive, the exact spot of the finish line of the Chicago Marathon, which just took place on Sunday, where 35,000 runners went 26.2 miles. And oh, the drama that took place right here as they crossed the finish line. I had a friend of mine who was in the marathon, and it started off wonderfully for him. He was just pushing hard, making record pace, so delighted with his progress. But he hadn't monitored his energy and prepared to finish well. It was hot and it was humid, and as a result, when he was about a mile away from this finish line, his body had had enough. He just hit a brick wall, shut down, and passed out. Very sad. Now, thankfully, he's doing just fine, but he grieves the fact that he didn't think more about the finish. Friends, we got to think about the finish. Do you ever think about it? We are in a marathon, a race that God has called us to. It's called Rise Up. 2 years ago, we had the great start of this campaign to raise $10 million to build the building for our South Naperville campus, which is working brilliantly, by the way. And oh, what a race it has been. We're seeing the finish line in view. It ends in February, just a few months away. And friends, this is it. We're almost there. We've got $9 million raised so far, and we are all wondering, are we gonna finish it with raising that final million? I pray so. We have this confidence, though we know many of us have completed our commitments already, there are some who are gonna jump on and be a part of this in the final stage. Some of you weren't even a part of our church 2 years ago when Rise Up began. Maybe God's gonna call you to generosity, to be a part of this great kingdom win that will yield fruit for many generations. Others of you, back 2 years ago, you made a commitment that you thought was generous at the time, but now 2 years later, you're realizing you have the capacity to do more. God may be prompting you to give beyond what you had thought you would be giving. Friends, through these ways and through God moving in the hearts of His people, our prayer is we're gonna finish well and hit that $10 million goal, maybe beyond. Would you join us in prayerful submission to God in this matter? I know some of you are like, oh, Jeff, you gotta do the fundraising push. It's a part of an organization. It's a necessary evil. No, it is not a necessary evil. This is a glorious part of the Christian life. The financial part, the managing of our money in obedience to God is absolutely crucial. In God's agenda, the Lord values, it's not the only part of the Christian life, but in God's eyes, it's a very important part of the Christian life. Will we show our devotion, our gratitude to Him, our worship to Him by taking our money and saying, Lord, how would you have me manage it? Because God will lead us, and He'll lead us to generosity. May each of us be known by our love for God and by a generosity that demonstrates that it's not just lip service. Friends, I pray that at the Compass Church, as we grow in our Christ-likeness and our zeal for God's cause, that every one of us will be generous people obeying His prompting and giving to His cause. So are you ready? The finish line is in sight. May God give us the strength to finish well. I love Chicago, but apparently not everyone does. Did you know that the population of Chicagoland has been in decline the last couple years? It's the first time that this area has been in decline population-wise since the city was founded nearly 200 years ago. Sad. Maybe you've got family members or friends that are moving out of state. My brother, youngest brother Mark, moved to California. Apparently, people don't like what? Our weather? Oh, come on. Snow bothers you? They don't like our taxes. They don't like that the governors go to prison, whatever it is. People are leaving and it bothers me. Gives me a little insecurity. Well, I'm here to tell you about something that'll make you feel better about where we live. An area of comparison where we look really good compared to other areas. It's regarding water. Friends, Lake Michigan is where we in Chicagoland get our water. Did you know we get water from the single largest freshwater system and source in all the world? It's called the Great Lakes, and you can't beat it. Friends, I am here at the Jardine Water Filtration Plant. It's the largest water filtration facility in all the world. Off the edge of this man-made peninsula, you will find water cribs. They are these massive towers that intake water. So much water, in fact, that over 1 million gallons per minute are flowing in and heading to our great city. The filtration system at the Jardine plant is so well done. We are supplied with a water that cannot be beat. In fact, Lou Malnati's recently launched their first restaurant outside of Chicagoland in Phoenix, which was a bad idea. They don't need our pizza. But as they started to make the pizza in Phoenix, they found it didn't taste right. They were missing Lake Michigan water. They actually had to have scientists analyze the chemical composition of our water so it could be artificially recreated in Phoenix for good pizza. Friends, we are blessed. In fact, when you compare our ready supply of water to states that are, again, in the west or the south, it's amazing. They are in a 21-year historic drought that has left them so desperate for water that the government is employing water rationing laws. They actually tell people in California how many gallons of water every day they can use. And they teach you how many times you can flush the toilet a day within your limit. I mean, that's just gross. Or showers. They've invented a water-saving shower head. You know what it does? It just reduces the flow down to a trickle on your head. I mean, we call that a bad shower head. When it comes to landscaping, friends, they can't grow a lawn without irrigation, without a sprinkler system. And so, wouldn't you know that the state only allows them to water their lawn on 2 days of the week, and it's barely enough water to keep their crabgrass alive, causing many people to give up on lawns altogether and do what they call stone mulch. Have you seen this? The whole yard is rocks. Friends, you can't compare. I mean, I took a picture of my backyard this morning. Take a look. Is that beautiful? California people, eat your heart out. You go ahead and roll around in your gravel pit, and I'll roll around on my luxurious green turf of goodness. Huh? That's what I'm talking about. On a very serious note, you should know that this drought in the south and the western states has led to their forests being so painfully dry that the danger of forest fires is a real problem all the time. My brother, Mark, he's a fireman in Sacramento and regularly called to fight forest fires. So people, we need water for our community to thrive, for people to thrive. And we Chicagoans, we have been blessed with connection to the greatest water supply in the universe. Now, I want to talk not about water, but this series is about love. And the comparison is a remarkable one. Just as the human body needs water to survive, so the human soul needs love. We were made for love. And we live in a time of love drought. It's sad but true. Families today don't have enough love. workplaces, schools, neighborhoods. There's not enough love going around, and the results are frightening. People dealing with loneliness and depression and emptiness of soul, they're missing the love that they were made for. And a love-deprived society leaves it dry and brittle and in danger of devastations like a forest fire. But in our case, it becomes places of abuse, physical abuse and verbal abuse and gang violence and societal problems like racism that just beg for some healing and for some restoration. And at the very key is the need for love. So this series is called Revolutionary Love. It's the teaching of Jesus Christ on love. Did you know that Jesus, when he came, he brought a revolution to be known by love? Jesus taught that we, Christians, are attached to the single greatest source of love in the universe. It's God. God brings a love of another kind. And God wants to revolutionize the world by the distribution of his love through his irrigation system, which is his people. God looks to billions of Christ followers spread throughout the globe and says, I want you people to distribute my love to the world you live in. Folks will taste that love and say, that's awesome. I need more of that. They'll be drawn in, and they'll find that what they're looking for is God. They'll, through the cross of Christ, find salvation, forgiveness, and love infused into their previously dry heart. And they too then become part of God's system to infuse a deluge, a downpour of love that will so transform our society that it will be a beautiful thing. That's what revolutionary love can do. That's what Jesus wants to do through us. So friends, are you ready? It's time to dive in deep to the teachings of Jesus Christ on love. Welcome to our new series entitled Revolutionary Love. Friends, our new series is taking a look at 6 different teachings, all of Jesus on love. This series is going to bounce around between the 4 Gospels, but we're starting today in John chapter 13. And I'll just give you the context before I read. This is the night before Jesus is crucified. It's that famous meal that will last forever in the hearts of all followers of his because he said some things and did some things that are just profound. And one of the things he said right in the core of the conversation they had in the upper room that night is found in verses 34 and 35. Christ said this, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you're my disciples, if you love one another." Isn't that great? I love these 2 verses. They are so powerful. Let's study them together. A new command I give you. Love one another. It's a little confusing at first because here Jesus seems to be introducing some revolutionary concept. A new command I give. Well, in what sense, Jesus, is this command new? Love one another. Throughout the Old Testament, we had been instructed already to love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself, the Old Testament had taught. But here, Christ is giving a new commandment, and it's new in this. He says, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Christ said, I came and loved you with a new kind of love. I want you to love like I love. And the love I bring is a love of another kind. It's a love from another world. Jesus is calling them to study his expression of love and recognize how different it is from normal worldly love, and then to love each other with his kind of love. So let's just look at it again. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. This is a new commandment, a new kind of love. So how has he loved them? Interestingly, if we put these comments in context, at the upper room on the night before Christ was crucified, he had just demonstrated love for them and then gives this statement. You say, what was that demonstration? Do you remember? It was the washing of the disciples' feet. He had just done this beautiful demonstration of love and then says, guys, as I've loved you, so love each other. In fact, let me go back to verse 1 of John 13. It set the context with this statement. Jesus had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. His whole ministry had been filled with this beautiful love he demonstrated towards his disciples. But he wanted that love to flow from him to them to the very end. Even on this last meal together, Christ found a way to put love into practice. Reading verses 4 and 5, it says, Jesus got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. He poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with towels. This may seem like a small thing to you, but it was shocking, scandalous even. Here's why. Feet are gross, always have been. And feet got really dirty in Jesus' day. You know, the roads weren't paved, it was all dusty, and they wore open-toed sandals. And so as a result, feet were filthy. And in a special meal like this one, where you wanted to get a little cleaned up, they would hire a servant, the lowest of the low. Jesus' first century world was one that had social classes, societal stratification, where there are the important people and the less important people. And those at the very bottom were those who had to do the most disgusting jobs, like washing feet. Well, Jesus was the highest rung of society. He was a rabbi. He was a sought after and respected leader. And for him to take off his robe and to put on the towel of a servant, for him to fill a basin of water and start scrubbing the disciples' feet, this was so troubling. In fact, Peter objected. He said, come on, Lord, you can't do this, man. You're too important. And Jesus is saying, I'm showing you guys what love is. Yes, the world in Jesus' day, and ours, I might add, tends to be that those who are successful, those who are significant, they can be preoccupied with themselves and have others serve them. But Jesus said the key is not being preoccupied with self, but being selfless. That's the essence of this love. It's giving of yourself. It's serving and looking for a way to be self-forgetful and focus on the needs of others. That's the heart of Christ's love. And in our day and age, in our society, where we all have a measure of success, self-obsession is so easy. We're all day long, we're just singing about ourselves. And love is choosing to turn your attention to the people around us and saying, how can I bless them? How can I give them my attention and my words of love and encouragement, my actions of selfless service? Love is the intentional focus on others. You know who crushes it at this is my wife. My wife is the greatest expresser of love to others that I have ever seen. And it's quite humbling, actually, to live in the same house as her. You know, we'll be working in the home on some project, and someone will come through the door, maybe one of our kids or a friend. And I am so task-oriented that at times I can shut out the fact that somebody's just entered and stay on my task. Jen, the minute she hears the door open, I've seen it 1,000 times, she drops what she's doing and she is celebrating the arrival of someone so important to her. She is both in word and eye contact and service, going out of her way to make every person who enters our home feel like $1,000,000. Do I do that? Not enough. But Jesus is calling us all to break the habit of self-obsession and turn our attention like a selfless servant to the needs, the importance of others, both in what we do and what we say, treasuring them in a way that makes them feel loved. The love of Jesus is selfless. Now here's another thing. The love of Jesus is unconditional. What do I mean here? Normal love goes about because we find somebody worthy of love. We find someone beautiful or delightful or good to us, and so we want to be good to them. There's this transaction that's at the basis of it. But Jesus said, yeah, that's how the world loves. I love people who don't deserve it. And was that the case as he washed the feet of his disciples? Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something interesting. One of the 12 was Judas. Judas, at that very moment that Jesus was washing his feet, had already made a deal with Christ's enemies to betray Jesus, to give him over to arrest. Judas at that moment had already been paid big bucks to stab the back of his rabbi. And here's the other thing. Jesus knew it. And the minute, you can read the text, the minute they're done with the feet washing thing, Jesus turns to Judas and says, I know what you're going to do. Go do it quickly. And Judas is like, oh my. He knew all along. As he washed my feet, he knew he was washing the feet of a betrayer. Friends, the lesson in what Christ does is that the love of Jesus is different. It's not about you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's about I will die to myself and celebrate you giving myself selflessly with no conditions attached. I don't care if you're a bum. I don't care if you've wronged me. I don't care if naturally I don't like you. I'm going to love you because that's how Jesus loves me. Friends, the love of Jesus, it's radically different than affection expressed in our world. So we've taken a look at that first verse. Let's zoom in on the second part of it now. Remember what it said? Jesus said, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. By this, Christ wants love to be the defining characteristic of his movement. Isn't that amazing? Jesus says Christians should be known above everything else as a people of love. How are we doing with that? Well, I have found some Christians do fantastic at representing Christ's cause by being amazingly loving. Other Christians do a terrible job and are more judgmental and grumpy and self-centered and mean. May we all hear the call of Jesus and rise up with his help to do this very thing he wants, and that's be a people known by love. I want to just emphasize here, by this, everyone will know. Everyone will know. This is the revolutionary side. Remember our series is called Revolutionary Love? Christ has a vision where his movement is so marked by love that the whole world takes notice. That they're like, wow, these people are different. They've got a love of another kind. They got something special going on. And not only will they notice, they will be enticed and drawn in and choose to be a follower of Jesus themselves because of the love they see in Christ's followers. Does that sound like a pipe dream? Does that sound too good to be true? Will that really work? Well, I can tell you it worked in my life. No kidding. As I look at my own spiritual journey, it was love that drew me to Christ and his community. I grew up in a Christian family. But like every kid who does, we got to decide, do I want to follow this Jesus or not? And so I had a unique opportunity to observe the difference of the Christ community and those without Christ. I went to public schools and had many friends who were non-believers. And the first thing I recall is that I observed the love in my family that was noticeably absent in the families of my friends who weren't Christians. I would go to their family's house and I just saw how self-centered their mom and dad were, and even the lack of love between their parents, and sometimes the lack of love from the parents to the kids. And then I came home and my house, my home was like a different world. The love that flowed there was so tangible and so remarkable in contrast to the other families that I just knew whatever my family's got, I want it. Even my friends would say, whatever your family's got, we want it. They tended to gravitate to our home, be over at our place all the time because they were drawn to the love. Another example of that was my youth group. I was involved with the youth ministry in my junior high and high school years back when I was a kid. And I had a group of friends at my youth group, and I had a group of friends at school. My group of friends at school were not Christ followers. And the cruelty that existed between people in that friend group broke my heart, caused me much pain. Now, these young people in the youth group were far from perfect, but Jesus, to a degree, had a hold on their hearts, and his principles of love were guiding them, creating a very different dynamic in that friend group. In my life, it was the love I saw at church and at home that drew me in and made me want to be one of these Christ followers too. So that's just an example of that the world will know and be drawn in by it occurring in my life. But when I talk about a revolution, my transformation's a revolution of one. Not very impressive revolution, huh? So I wanted to show another example that shows how this revolution can spread through society. And the society study that I'd like to do with you is of a tropical island in the South Pacific. I am presently reading a history book that celebrates the work the Lord did on an island called Rarotonga. Rarotonga is this small island, only 7 miles wide, 7 miles by 5 miles, population of about 15,000 people. And it's in the southern Pacific. We're so familiar with the northern Pacific and the islands of Hawaii. Well, as far north of the equator as Hawaii is, Rarotonga is exactly the same directly south. And in the southern hemisphere, there's actually more Pacific islands there than the Hawaiian Islands. And so Rarotonga is this absolutely stunningly gorgeous island. And I'm reading about a couple that decided to plant a church there. Look at these pictures. Who wouldn't want to plant a church there, huh? Well, the couple that decided they wanted to go there was Mary and John Williams. This is 200 years ago. They met in England, fell in love, and 1 month after their wedding, they decided, let's get on the boat and let's head to this island we've heard about, who has never heard the gospel message of Jesus Christ before. And so it took them about a year to learn the language, but once they did, they set off in a boat for the island of Rarotonga. And friends, you need to know something. Though this place is stunningly beautiful, it was also terrifying. A brutal people who were filled with rage, hatred, and a devaluing of human life. For one, they were cannibals. There were various tribes on this little island, and they waged war against each other continuously. And when they killed an enemy, they not only delighted in the destruction of their foe, but they cooked them and ate them. Cannibalism is just the start, though. Rape was commonplace. Infanticide where they would kill their babies. That was a sign of great courage and devotion to pagan gods, was to sacrifice your newborn on the altar. In other cases, they would kill their girls because they wanted a son and they didn't have room for a girl. So kill the girls, keep the boys. In addition to that, they had a practice they called owanga, which meant when a man died, all of his possessions were up for grabs. When a man died, the people of the island would charge the home of the deceased. Didn't care that he had a widow, a wife. Didn't care he had children. They robbed them of everything they had, often leaving the widow and children to starve to death as a result. In addition, they practice geronticide. Geronticide is the killing of old people. As their parents grew old and became unhelpful in a productive life, they would dig the grave of their parents, bring them over to see it, push them into the hole, and bury them alive. Friends, as you can tell, it was a scary community, so devoid of love and value of human life, that, as you can imagine, John and Mary were terrified as they approached. Now, this boat that they had paid to get a ride to the island wouldn't go very close. They had coral reefs near the island, and the boat, both afraid of the cannibals living there and the potential of striking the reefs, let them off 3 miles away in a little rowboat. So imagine this, Mary and John and their 6-month-old baby climb into this rowboat and start rowing towards the island. Terror began right away as the waves were really too big for this little boat. And as they're trying to come into the island, the waves are crashing over, and Mary is holding her baby with one arm and bailing water out of the rowboat with the other. Well, they made it to the shore, and they approached the peoples with trepidation. The peoples were mesmerized by their white skin, a little terrifying to them. Maybe it was fear of what are they that led them not to attack. Mary and John survived, made contact, showed that they could speak their language, and began to communicate the gospel, the message of God's love. Told them that this love God has for people is not a dream. It's so real that he became one of us and died in our place to demonstrate his love. As the months progressed, the people of Rarotonga were so mesmerized by the message of love. They observed the love between this married couple and the love they had for their child and the love they had for the people of the island. As they said, we'd like to teach you how to write and read. And the people were like, why do you care about us? Why do you want to help us? Love just caused them to be fascinated and intrigued. Any notion they had of the divine with these pagan gods that were part of their culture, the divine was always terrifying and awful as they were. But this Christian message spoke of a one God, a creator who made it all, made them, and adored them enough to die for them, to save them. Friends, it took hold, and as the months progressed, John and Mary were baptizing converts by the hundreds. In fact, within the first year, they built this massive church building. They made it really big because people were coming by the hundreds to worship. Within 1 year, there were so many converts that they realized their building wasn't big enough. 4,000 people were showing up every week to their Sunday worship services. That's a church bigger than ours within a year. How about that? They abandoned their first building and built a massive, simple but massive structure that could house the thousands of people who were coming to worship. In 3 years' time, the entire island, so it's described, the entire island, I'm sure there were exceptions, but it seemed that the entire island had come to Christ. The warring between the tribes had stopped because of their joint devotion to Jesus. A government over the entire island was established for the first time in their history, and they set about laws that abolished the rape that had been common and the infanticide, laws that abolished murder and cannibalism, laws that abolished the oanga practice of raiding the house of the deceased. And they abolished the geronticide, the killing of old people. They realized people matter to God and they should matter to us. And love transformed that community. Today on the island, there are still 80% of the island are Christians and churchgoers. It is not only a paradise as far as the environment, it's a utopia as far as the way people treat each other. Friends, that in a little island is an example of the revolution that love can bring through Christ to a community. May it happen increasingly through us. I want to read one more verse. In that same meal, a little later on, as Jesus was talking about love, he restated what he had said earlier. This is John 15, verse 12. He says, "This is my command. Love each other as I have loved you." He's repeating himself, right? But then he goes further. "The greatest love a person can show is to die for his friends." Oh, what a moment. Can you imagine Jesus looking these guys in the eyes and saying, "I'm telling you, love each other as I love you. And I'm about to show you the greatest love ever. I'm going to die for you." And friends, Christ did. He died in our place so that the punishment that we deserved was put on him. And as our substitute, forgiveness is extended to all of humanity, including you. So, do you want to be a part of this revolution Jesus started? Do you want to do what the islanders did when they embraced this gospel, found reconciliation with their Maker, and became agents of love, agents of God's bringing love to the culture? I hope you do. Friends, if you're not already a part of Christ's revolution, this closing prayer is a chance for you to do just that. The greatest demonstration of love ever was Christ dying on that cross for you. Are you interested in saying yes to what he offers? Reconciliation with God and forgiveness of sins? This closing prayer is a chance for you, right where you're at, to say yes to Jesus Christ. Let's pray. Lord, we love your revolution of love. It's beautiful, it's compelling, and it's been going on for thousands of years. And that revolution is stirring right now as some of us are deciding to become true believers, true Christians. We, in this very moment, are looking at the love expressed to us through Christ on the cross. And we're saying, we want that love. Jesus, please apply what you did to our lives. Take your sacrifice on the cross and use it to wash away our sin, bring us back to God. Right now, may we be reconciled to him, be called sons and daughters of the King of Kings. We want so badly to give our one life to the greatest revolution ever, your revolution, known by love. And now, as we are part of your family, would you help each of us to live out this vision, Jesus, that you started 2,000 years ago? Help us be selfless givers of love to everybody around us. Even this week, Lord, we're so easily self-obsessed. Help us turn our eyes and our thoughts to loving the people around us, our spouses, our children, our coworkers, our neighbors. Give us ideas on how we can love them. We do it for you. We do it by your power and spirit within us. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
There is no greater love. There is no greater love. The Savior lifted up. There is no greater love. You came from heaven's throne, acquainted with our sorrow, to trade the debt we owe. You're suffering for our freedom. The Lamb of God in my place, your blood poured out, my sin erased. It was my death, you died, I am raised to life. Hallelujah, the Lamb of God. My name upon your heart, my shame upon your shoulders, the power of sin undone, the cross for my salvation. The Lamb of God in my place, your blood poured out, my sin erased. It was my death, you died, I am raised to life. Hallelujah, the Lamb of God. There is no greater love. There is no greater love. The Savior lifted up. There is no greater love. There is no greater love. There is no greater love. The Savior lifted up. There is no greater love. The Lamb of God in my place, your blood poured out, my sin erased. It was my death, you died, I am raised to life. Hallelujah, the Lamb of God. The Lamb of God in my place, your blood poured out, my sin erased. It was my death, you died, I am raised to life. Hallelujah, the Lamb of God. And Jesus, you are the Lamb of God.
There is no greater love than the love of Jesus and what he has done for us. And that's great news. And maybe specifically for you today, that was great news for the first time. You know, if you decided to follow Jesus, I would love to know. One, because I like to celebrate those things and celebrate them with you. But ultimately, if you need a Bible, I'd love to be able to provide that. Or if you need just next steps of what your faith journey might look like, or some ways to get started on the right foot, here at the Compass Church, we would be honored to get you some resources to help you do just that. You can let us know, again, by filling out your connection card and just checking the box that says that I've put my faith in Jesus for the first time today. People are continuing to hear that good news of Jesus, and it's in no small part because of you and your financial support. Thank you for your continued generosity. Thank you for giving sacrificially. Thank you for parting with the hard-earned money that you have, the resources that you have been given. We don't take it lightly or for granted. Yes, there are bills to be paid here just like anywhere else. But ultimately, we just want people to know the love of Jesus. We want people to fall more and more in love with him. And we know that none of that is possible without the things that you give, whether that's finances or your time or the talents that you have. Hopefully you really enjoyed the first week here of our Revolutionary Love series, because we got more of it where that came from. So join us next time here at Compass Online.